Okay, so Jaime, I,
Hi,
how are you?
I'm okay. How about you?
Tired, but we're good, right? We're good, okay, so. So Jaime, this is my class here, and this is Jaime, who's joining us from his apartment in, Manhattan. And they have read, like this afternoon, Forever. And we were talking a little bit about it, but I want to give them an opportunity to talk with you about it and for you to talk with them. So
Tell me a little bit about the class. I want to know what books are you reading for this class, or what movies are you watching, or something, so that I
yeah,
know the context.
so it's a class called what's it called? Sex and Politics? Body erotic, body politic. But basically we look at novels and films that use sexuality to critique repressive political regimes. Is that a fair description so far? So we've talked about Venado Arenas. We talked about, what the hell did we talk about? I can't remember anymore.
Oh, the semester just started, no?
Oh, we talked, well, Luis Negron. We were gonna do with Luis Negron. We did Rita Indiana Tentacle. Next week we're doing Kiss of the Spider Woman.
Oh, great.
My Tinder Matador. We're doing some Polish stuff. So a wide variety of things around the globe.
Sounds great.
Yeah, I think so, right? So far. We haven't done any films yet, have we? I don't think we've done any films.
Just before night falls.
So, oh yeah, Before Night Falls with yeah. Oh yeah, Strawberry and Chocolate too. Yeah.
Okay. All right, so let's talk. And
Yeah, so I talk to Jaime all the time, but this is your chance to talk to Jaime, and don't be afraid. He's very nice. Okay, he's not gonna bite your head off or anything. Not gonna think you're asking a silly question. So if someone would like to start us off with a question, you might need to approach the microphone if you do not have a voice that carries. So who's gonna start? Okay, Sandy.
Girl.
Be brave.
Hello, first of all, thank you for joining our class tonight. My question is with the way that you structured the novel, where you started out with like Lucas's point of view and then you went to Ignacio's, what made you kind of write it in this fluid style where you bounce between both characters and kind of their perspectives?
well, this is the third novel I've done like that. I started with two previous novels, and I found that it was a good way to give like two different points of view about the characters, so that we can see them as they see each other, not as I see them. And so I don't know. I like like that contrast. And then I was trying very hard to give them different voices. That the way they talked were different. So I don't know if I succeeded with that, but it was important for me to hear two different people talking, and so yeah. So that's it.
Thank you.
Oh, okay. I guess I have a question in like how you came up with like the intimate moments of these characters. Like I know it was based on like real life, but like how like did you do your research for it?
But could you give me an example of an intimate moment for you?
I guess like when he was on one of his not the vacation, what am I talking about? No, like the retreats. or something, and not the retreat, what is it called? When the missionary work, when he was doing missionary
Yeah,
work.
when they were in the jungle, the
Yeah,
seminary in the jungle.
yeah,
Yes.
and he was seeing all these like kids being like killed when he was with Lucas, and he was absolutely terrified.
Oh, seeing like the bodies and the
Yeah.
heads and the corpses and stuff.
Oh, the story of the corpses. That's you mean in the lagoon when he sees all this the dead. He has a flashback. Actually, that's what he has. Actually, in a way, that was how the book began for me. About with that picture. I saw it in a Colombian newspaper, maybe 12 years ago, 14 years ago, and I cut it out of the paper, and then now and then I would open the drawer where I put it, and I would see it, and I think, oh, that image haunts to me. Oh, to see all those children dead in the lagoon with the extended stomachs, and but I didn't know that was going to be I thought I have to do something with it. I didn't know what, and then finally, eventually, I came to a moment in the novel where I thought, oh, here is where I can put that scene, because here it belongs when they're walking in the jungle, and Lucas goes to, is it Lucas or Ignacio? No, Lucas, no, Ignacio goes to the lagoon to swim, and he sees that, and it's basically very much a description of that photograph. So it was and for me it was horrifying. It was like that scene haunted me for a long time, although I didn't know what I would do with it, or that I would be doing it. I would put it in a novel.
Jaime, I have a question regarding the drug usage throughout the novel, because I think this might come out of my own ignorance, but it came as a surprise that a lot of the clergymen were using in Colombia were using drugs, like abusing them so harshly, especially meth. So do you know more about the drug addiction and the epidemic and the crisis that happened in Colombia? Like, was this a big thing for them?
Well, that was part of doing research. There was a news program it was kind of a documentary, but it was not, it was like more, it was more the sensational thing about the priest, what they did, what they have found out about priests in Bogota, especially, who went to gay bars and who did drugs. And I thought, well, maybe Ignacio he has the temperament. Maybe that's, he's of the two, he's the one who would become a drug addict. So apparently it is something that goes on or went on. I think it probably still goes on in Colombia, maybe not in other countries, or maybe even in this country. I don't know. But that wasn't just invention of that's a fact. I mean, that's I saw it in a news program.
Don't be shy, y'all.
That's nice.
Come on, let's have a discussion.
Lindsay.
Okay.
Hi, I was looking up like other books you've written, and I saw that you wrote like 5 or 6 more. I was just wondering, like, why did you write this book at this time? Like, was there something that happened, or like the timing was right for you, or did you come across like an inspiration for this book, or like, why'd you write it? Like, when you wrote it? I guess that's my question.
Well, first, there was a moment in my life. My partner died in 2010, and it had been a relationship of like 33 years, although we didn't always live together. But the last year of his life, I moved upstate New York to be with him, and you know, in a way, you know, I think that the character of Ignacio is based on you know, he has a lot of, you know, it has maybe I never thought about it, but maybe his name was Bill, and he was a painter, and I think that maybe Bill had that explosive temperament and would lose his temper very quickly and loudly, and he was very impulsive, and I think he had like sometimes he was like filled with rage, and you know, so, and I wanted that. I wanted to contrast the two people, I wanted them to be different as people, and so yeah, so that's why I did that, and so Bill died, and it was horrendous for me because you know, because he had been in the years that we were together, he had become my family. He was my lover. He was to me, he represented everything: my mother, my lover, my father, my sister, my brothers. He was my entire family, and we were if we were not happy as a couple, I think, although we had happy moments, we were extremely close as friends, and he had my back and I had his back, and we were very devoted to each other and to each other's works. So I was devastated. There were so many things I did in the years I lived with him. There were so many things I didn't know about the world, and I'm not kidding. When I moved to my apartment in the village, and you know, was going to put some pictures on the walls and everything, and I thought, I don't have a hammer, you know, or nails, and so you know, and I thought, where do I get a hammer or nails? You know, somebody said, I called a friend, he said, a hardware store, you know, and I swear I had never been in a hardware store in my life before. So it was like that, learning about many things that he used to take care of for me, like I took care of other things for him. So it was like this, I felt that there was like a part of me that was missing, like half of me had been cut open and, you know, like thrown away. And I didn't, you know, I couldn't do things I wanted to do because I actually didn't have the knowledge to do such things. And so the loss was devastating. And then I read in a newspaper the story of the two priests. And I thought that it really touched me very deeply, because I thought perhaps that relationship in some ways is could be a little bit like my relationship was with Bill. And I wanted to explore what my life was really like with Bill, what our relationship really meant, you know, finally, and what kept us together, and so and it was a way, it was in a way that also was like therapy, although it was extremely difficult because after Bill died, I couldn't write. Because he also, besides being a painter, at one point he had a publishing press, and had published my 2 books of poetry, of my poetry, and other things. But he loved to read, and he always, when I wrote, you know, especially when I was there, like I was there every summer, all summer, and the weekends and everything. If I spend the day, hours of the day writing, at the end of the day, he wanted me to show him what I had written, and he would write and he would read it. He was an eager reader. He wanted to read everything I did. So, and he would give me his feedback, give me, you know, so that was you know, this part of like feeling that huge loss. And it was extremely hard to write that book. It was very difficult. Sometimes it was, I thought I was gonna, just go mad with grief. But I wanted to put all that in the writing, and I hope I succeeded in doing some of that. And it was finally it allowed me to finish the book, and then after that I was kind of free to to write again. But it was yeah. Does that help you? You asked the question.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome. And when you come to the mic, introduce yourselves so I can, sort of like say your name so that you become more real to me as you say your names.
Hi, I'm Doc. I had a question based on the backgrounds that you gave the characters. I liked how it juxtaposed their viewpoints. I was just wondering which perception of religion and sexuality you had more fun writing from, like what perspective?
Well, Ignacio, because Ignacio is the most, for me, is kind of the most interesting character. He's so explosive, and in real life, the work he did with the poor people in Soacha was really great. I mean, so I had. It's not that I had more fun writing about him, but I felt that I was more fascinated by him, and the other character is sort of based on I wouldn't say that it's me, that's me, but also people I know that who are like that, and in relationships, usually many relationships, there is a dominant person, the one who really is more outrageous and then the other you'll see it in Kiss of the Spider Woman, and the other one is less quiet, withdrawn, and so let's the dominant character be the one who acts out the relationship in public for friends, for whatever, and so. So Ignacio, it's not fun. I didn't have fun writing about Ignacio. It was very painful, especially all the stuff when he when he gets AIDS and he's a drug addict and like that, and he has that relationship with the hustler, and that I knew that he's very self-destructive, and I think the self-destructive characters can be very interesting in fiction. I think people who are, if you write books about people who are good, the books tend to be boring, because then there is no conflict. And he was a good source of conflict.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Some more questions.
Or observations. You don't have to ask questions. You can tell me how what you thought about the book as you read, and what things you like or horrified you, or whatever your impressions. I want to know your impressions.
Okay, you said Naomi. My name's Naomi. It's nice to meet you. So you said that you thought like good characters are really boring. So, and Lucas, he's kind of this good character, but he also like takes a step back. And I think that makes him like, I guess, a bit more apathetic than Ignacio, or do you think that I'm wrong?
Yeah, well, there are people like that, who are not flashy, but not always. I think that Ignacio is more like a star. He's the one who's always doing things in public and whatever. And there is I think in most relationships you'll find that you'll find that there is a person who makes a stronger impression on the world, and then the other one takes a step back. And usually that person I like very much, the quiet ones like Lucas, because Lucas was a very good observer, and the observations he makes about Ignacio, I like that. In a way, by being quiet, he's really being a wonderful observer. And also the idea of goodness, of being good as a person. Excuse me. I have a dry throat, and this nose and this got stuck in my throat. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. And so what was I saying?
About goodness.
Oh, about goodness. I don't know. There are people in the world who are, for example, people who are volunteers, people like, or people who give themselves to causes to the world to help people, and in a quiet way, and so I base that on people who go to hospitals. I have met them, many people like that, to see sick people, people who are in the world to try to help others. So why is that? Why are these people so noble? There's a nobility about him, and I wanted to. I don't know if I managed to, if I succeeded with that, with my depiction of what I thought was goodness of being a person. Do you agree or disagree?
I agree. I thought Ignacio, like when he was like on his social, I was like, you go, man. I was so pumped up with Ignacio. I loved him so much. And I also thought that Lucas's aspirations were very cute, because he was also like, I also want to help people, but I thought he was very like his philosophy was flawed, because like he cares more about helping people physically than spiritually. And I'm like, people live in their physical bodies, Lucas.
Yes, that's very true. And I'm glad that you saw that you saw Before Night Falls, because I think that Reynaldo's character is, you saw how was a driven. Maybe Reynaldo's character also helped me to think about Ignacio, and when you read Piece of the Spider Woman, it's the duality of people that I'm most interested in, because it's very old in literature. If you go back, like to, maybe you've heard of Don Quixote, and so there is the quixotic person, the one who is like Don Quixote, and there is the Sancho Panza, and if you don't know about them, I can tell you briefly that Don Quixote is a dreamer. He thinks he can go out in the world and straighten out all the terrible things that are happening, and he can help everybody. But he has a fantastic imagination, and whereas Sancho in the beginning, who is the squire of Don Quixote and is a peasant, is very he was in the beginning, he was the one who saw reality. Don Quixote said, "Oh, let's go kill those giants," and then Sancho said, "But they're not giants, they're windmills." And Don Quixote said, "No, they're giants." And so he attacks the windmills and almost gets killed for that. So and that kind of character, the dreamers, is what I call them. They I don't know, in many ways they're the ones who make things happen in the world, because they have a way of seeing how there is almost utopian, and so that's what I try to do with the two of them. You know, there is one is the dominant hero, and the other one is the sidekick, and the psych in the yeah, but in the novel in Don Quixote, by the end of Don Quixote, Sancho has become wise. In the beginning, he's very, you know, he's very crude, and you know, he doesn't know how to read or write or anything. He was just a peasant who working in the village where Don Quixote lived. And but by the end of the novel, he has become a wise character. And Don Quixote was mad, was actually mad. He was not pretending to be mad. It becomes more realistic, and he becomes like normal. You know, he so, and so at one point at the end, well, when Don Quixote is beautiful to madness, Sancho gets mad, and he says, "I don't want Don Quixote to be normal. I want him to be mad. You know, I love the mad Don Quixote. Give me back the madman, and you keep the you know, this normal person that you want." And so yeah, I hope I'm not I explain it somewhat, you know, okay or well or something. So
Okay, Jaime, my name is Maddie. This is gonna be a little bit of a different note, but I was kind of fascinated when you were talking about the passing of your partner and how that was almost a muse for your writing and the grieving process associated with that. And I was also really excited to hear that you or find out that you wrote poetry as well. Can you tell me about like your writing process and whether or not when you use a muse and when you find muses and that sort of thing with your inspiration? In what language do you write in originally?
well, I write most of my poetry in Spanish, and almost all of it, like 90% of it. And then the novels I write in English. I don't know. I think that I've you know, I've lived in this country for so long that I know like how we talk, the way we say things. Whereas like Spanish is not always in my ears, because when I go back to Colombia, sometimes I go to Colombia frequently, but every time that I go back, I realize that, you know, like the people are you know, like always picking up different ways of talking, and the usual you know, speech that they had before has changed, because they're learning new words in English, mostly in English, and sort of there is a lot of like Spanglish all over the world, but this is that kind of thing. And anyway, so I also you know, and a poem, you know, usually my poems are shorter, page 2-3 pages. I mean, although I've written poems that are long, like 25 to 30 pages. I think, but I always think I can, you know, even though I feel that I don't have, I'm not hearing Spanish every day in my life, or even today there were 2 people in my house, and they both, you know, are Spanish speaking, so we're talking in Spanish all the time. I feel like in a poem, which is a short form mostly, I have control of the language, because there is not as much language as there is in a novel. So when I write a poem, I think I can make it almost perfect, because I know that I know all the words that I need for this. Whereas in fiction, it's different. Fiction is much more. You have more room to explore, to learn things, to, you know, not to be as precise, as, you know, as exacting with the language as you are, as I am as a poet. So in a way, you know, it's like I like you know, I think that, you know, when you look at the things I've written, but I look at a lot of literature, there is this the dualistic nature of people. we're both, I think that we're both Ignacio and Lucas at the same time, and that they contain both of us, or they make up the way we really are, and so yeah, that's it makes us as human beings much more interesting to have this conflict within us, and so and you see, especially when in Kiss of the Spider Woman, which was also a book that was inspiring in many ways, because Manuel Puig, I met him briefly as a teacher, and afterwards we became friends, and so I learned a lot from him. And also it makes it more complicated, to have this duality in all of us. Many of the great writers, that's what they write about. Hamlet, Shakespeare does that, Dostoevsky does that. The people who are both like good and bad. Ignacio is good, also sometimes very good, and he did a lot for people, and that was admirable. And Lucas, in a way, was kind of passive aggressive, and so I think that there is that kind of. I'm very interested in exploring, looking at people that way. Otherwise, they're very stereotypical. This one is good, that one is bad, this one is interesting, the other one is not. It's more interesting when they're both, like that, because that's the way we really are. There are evil people in the world, but most people we know are not evil. There are plenty of bad good people in the world, but not. But evil is the people who also are. I don't know if evil people have good qualities. Maybe they love their cats or the dogs or something. I don't know. But other than that, they're really bad. But some rambling now. Question or comment or something?
Well, the rambling was good because that's really interesting. I'm Josh. I have a couple of.
Hello, Josh.
I have a couple of questions. You have a lot of really interesting commentary on religion, and the two main characters have very different takes on. Well, the most interesting aspect to me is how they feel about being able to believe in something without just kind of taking it at face value. Like Lucas can just basically pray and be like, okay, there's a God there, and whereas Ignacio is like, well, okay, where do they say in scripture that this is what to expect, and he's very grounded in his beliefs. And I was just kind of curious what your take on belief like that is, whether you can kind of just believe something based on somebody telling you that it's correct versus trying to narrow in on the truth, or what is at least provable to a point.
Well, religion is I don't practice any religion, but in a way, there is a way of I think that we're religious in a way that we can be religious without becoming part of any denomination. I think there is the way of like the way people say, like, life is sacred, and I believe that life is sacred, and as long as we look at life as sacred, then like this is different from the characters who don't, like the people who don't believe that, and in that, and Ignacio doesn't believe there is a God. I mean, there is a God. I mean, because how many times you've heard people, and I often have asked that myself, if there is a God, where is he when all these horrible things are happening? Where was he during the Holocaust? Why didn't he they intervene, or this horrible earthquakes now in Syria and Turkey, and why didn't he, if he's there, and he's so powerful, why doesn't he stop these things? Why does he let them happen? And that's the thing, the main thing about Ignacio, that he doesn't see God as being anything good, doing anything good for human beings. But yet he finds that the being in the church, pretending to be a religious person, he can help other human beings. He can help the pregnant mothers and all the and the little children who are homeless, and when he opens the soup kitchen, and I always also say that, and this is true, I've met some the most religious, or not the most religious, the best people I've met in my life are atheists. I think they're the most people who don't believe in God, but I find that some of them, or the ones I've met, are very people who are like almost they don't have to use religion to pretend that if they want to do good in the world. I mean, I would like to think that some of what I like I do is good, but maybe it's like I'm flattering myself. But I do believe in God. By the way, I just don't I do. I mean, I really do. Even though I don't really pray or any, and I believe in God because for me it's a way of staying sane. Because if I didn't believe in God, then I would think that the world was like just madness, So I think that there must be a purpose. I don't understand it. I'm a human being, so and there must be a God. If I saw that the God or goddess or whatever, that being was some place. I don't know. I would find it hard to get out of bed in the morning. I have to believe.
That's beautiful. My second question is a little bit more just literary. There's some really cool minor characters throughout the book. My favorite is the little boy who Ignacio's I don't know if it was the kitchen or whatever.
Yeah.
I was just curious if there was any inspiration for that character in particular, or any of the other like minor characters like Father Daniel or Donald.
Well, the little boy, I talk more about the little boy. This in 1980, in 1970, from 1978 to 1980, I lived with my friend Billy in Bogota. In Bogota, there are thousands of children who are, who don't have, who live on the streets. When they're little, their parents cannot feed them or, can take care of them. And so they let them, say, go out there or they give it to, they leave them on the streets or whatever. And so these children band together, and they sometimes they have gangs. I'm sure you've seen some of those movies, and most of them die before they're by the end of their adolescence. They get shot or something happens, and because they start stealing, they grow up without any guidance or anybody to say anything good to them. But when I was there with Bill, and we used to go to the market, the open market, like the Indian markets in South America, we used to carry like baskets to put the things that we carry, that we bought for the house. But they were heavy. And by the end of the, we had finished shopping for the week or whatever. We had bought a lot of like heavy stuff, and then it was like potatoes or whatever. Sometimes I couldn't carry the basket. And then one day, one little boy approached me. He said, "I can do it." And this boy was like, 1/3 of my size. He must have been like, 3.5 feet tall. and he looked like he was like 8 or 9 years old, and he was wearing these shoes that were torn and had a big hole. And I thought, this boy is not going to be able to carry that. And he very, very, it was like for him when he lifted the basket, it was like carrying, lifting a pencil. It was like it had absolutely no weight. And then, and then he said, where do you live? And then he started walking towards our house. And so I fell in love with that little boy, and I found him so remarkable, and and I thought, oh, if I could just like adopt him or something, and because the fact that he had stayed, he has survived to that point the streets, and that he made a living, a very meager living, because he was unnaturally strong. Nature had made him very physically strong, even though he was little in size. And so that's the inspiration for that character. I mean, even though I had met that boy 20 years earlier, he always stayed with me. And I sometimes wonder, whatever happened to him? Did he survive? Did he become evil? Did he become nasty? Did he, so.
That's very cool, thank you.
Hi, my name is Madison. It's very nice to meet you.
Likewise, Maricel.
My question for you was more of a comment and a question in one. I really like how you structured the chapters into a time frame. And I was wondering what inspired you or made you write in that structure, and if you've written in that structure with your other works.
Yeah, I talked a little bit about in the beginning that for example, I wrote a novel about a woman who was freedom fighter during the wars of independence with Spain in Colombia, and she's a great heroine of in Latin America now, and people love it. Some people still don't like it, even though she's been dead over almost 200 years. But she had slaves. She had 2 slaves, which was real. In real life, she was a real character, and in real life, she had 2 slaves. Which at that time, when if you were a rich girl, when you were like 4 or 5 years old, the family would buy 2 slaves and give them to the girls to play with the slaves as dolls. And so that was the in the life of my heroine, that she received 2 enslaved people, but they were her family, because her father didn't want her and her mother had died, and her aunts hated her. So she became a family with the slaves, and she loved them very much. And then one of the slaves was devoted to her and saw her as great, and she was great. She was a great woman. And the other slave was very critical of the whole of the Manuela, and saw her as being full of pride and be very egotistical, and so I wanted, it gave me the opportunity to have 2 different people looking at her, one who loved her blindly, and the other one loved her, but saw the flaws of the character. It was not, she didn't have hero worship attitude towards Manuela. She just saw her as the person she was, who sometimes was tremendously admirable, and sometimes could be really cruel and nasty, and that's what that structure of having two different people. And so in that novel there are actually three voices, and that was more of a challenge even than just having two voices, two narrators.
I actually have a question. Let me start my video. Okay. Hi,
What?
I'm Shireen. It's nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
I just had a question. So do you have any like regrets in writing this novel, like things you would change or maybe things you didn't include that you want to include? Just asking, just because.
No, no regrets whatsoever.
No regrets.
No, I wish I had been nastier about the church in Colombia. I get pretty nasty about when I show the hierarchy of the church.
Yeah.
Because the church is many people in the clergy are very are corrupt, and they they're there to defend the actually not the poor but the upper classes and that kind of stuff. And so maybe, but then I don't know, but not, it's not a regret. It's not a regret that, but I sometimes I wish I had done a little more of that. And I think I included just about everything I knew at that point. Now I know more about those characters, and because people have kept writing about them, and now they're making a movie and whatever, and so. But what I knew, I very much, I left it on the page, and on the screen. I didn't hold back.
I love it. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Hi, I'm Sam, and kind of to segue off that, your answer with talking about the church, what was the public's reception to this book? Did you receive any backlash from the Catholic Church or other religious ideologies?
No. Actually, the book, the publisher bought the book, but they were delaying the publication, and they were saying, oh, it's coming out this year, and I didn't. And it's coming out next year, and I didn't. And at one point I said, well, if you're not going to publish it, give me back my rights, and I'll publish it myself. Nobody else wants to publish it. And then they said, then all of a sudden there was a change in the publishing house, and they wrote to me and said, no, now we're going to publish it. But they didn't say anything more about that. But after the book came out, I had a lunch with the editor and the people who work in that publishing house, that people who were, like the business side of publishing and publicity. And somebody said, oh, Jaime, did you know that we couldn't publish the book all those years? It's because there was a lawsuit when the families of the two priests found out and the church found out. They started a lawsuit against the company, against the publisher. And it was finally when it went to court that the judge said, nonsense, this book is not, I don't think it's insulting in any way. This seems like a very fair approach to do the way things are. And so at that point, they lost their battle, and the book could be published. But the publisher never explained that to me, which is like, it was good and bad, but it was a very delicate way for them of saying, not saying that, because it would have worried me if I had known that there was they were having trouble publishing it. When it came out, I expected more of an outcry, people, saying bad things about the book, or more and more press, or and there was mostly silence. There were some good reviews, and then a couple of interviews, and then silence. But so that happened. But some years later, I began to find online the new there is a new wave in Colombia of book reviewers who review. They have their own channels, and they review books and art. They're independent. They don't depend on anybody to tell them what to say. And those people are really open. They say what they think, and it's throughout Latin America. And then I remember like it really started like 3 years ago, or 3 or 4 years ago, when I began to see all these videos done by these mostly young people, and who were saying, "I love this book. This is the best book I've read. You know, this is a great gay novel. This is like, it was all praise. It was really wonderful to know that there were people who finally, you know, appreciated it and could say it, and begin to silence." And then CNN in Spanish did a program with me, an interview of an hour, the whole program, and they said, "Well, you know, we want the church." The interviewer said, "We want the church in Colombia to read this book, and we want to hear from the church." And I said, "Oh my God, I wish she hadn't said that, and there's going to be now trouble." And I didn't hear a word. You know, it's like it didn't exist. So it's a book that exists for some people, mostly young people, and then the rest of the people find it troubling to maybe talk about it or mention it. So, but yeah,
Thank you.
you're welcome.
So I have another question. What is the relationship between either you and the preceding excerpt from sonnet 29? Between you and that sonnet, or between the sonnet and the rest of the book?
On the Shakespeare's sonnet,
Yeah.
it's a beautiful sonnet, I think, you know, and you know, that expresses you know, how great the love between two men can be. And you know, I think when the last line, it says that, you know, I wouldn't give you up for all the you know, gold in the world. I feel more, you know, powerful or whatever than an emperor, you know, like you know, loving you or something like that, you know. Not, I mean, Shakespeare says it so beautiful. And so I thought that was also, you know, I thought that really belonged in the book, you know. The idea of how, you know, that we can love, especially that what some people who were intelligent and spoke to me, very few, but it was like they found they couldn't believe that two men could have a relationship so intimate and so profound, and that they could really love each other, you know, as you know, the other people, you know, heterosexuals love each other. That there is no difference in the kind of love or the passion that, you know, just because you're not heterosexual or whatever.
Thank you.
We have time for maybe one more question, if anybody's got a question. Oh, two. Okay, we have time for two. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Okay, now I'm charging. That's $10 per question.
Oops, I didn't bring my wallet. Hi, my name's Andrew. I'd like to circle back to Kilo, or the child. How do you think Ignacio would have turned out if Kilo had survived or wasn't like assassinated? Do you think Ignacio was kind of destined to go down that path of drugs and clubbing and kind of becoming that angry and all that?
Well, what I found out when I went to Swatch to do a little research about the two priests, especially the baker, a woman, a bakery across from the church, she said, "I don't believe a word of what the people are saying in the press, you know, or the government is saying that they committed suicide or that somebody, you know, killed them like that. You know, they were killed by the government, and then, you know, like, you know, and so, but that was hard to say in the press, because the man who was president in Colombia at that point when the book came out had been minister of whatever, and he was one of the ones who was in charge of you know, creating the policy of the false positives, and so which resulted in the deaths of thousands of people. So did I answer your question or say so? You know?
I was so I'm not sure if you were explaining that the government was doing the.
How he would have turned out, let's see if he hadn't been killed. I don't know if he could have survived with that, with his temperament. I don't know if he could have survived. People who were that passionate and about it don't really do very well in the world. I mean, like, especially if they're against the establishment. Those people usually are, especially in Latin America and I might imagine in many other countries in Africa and Asia and everything. If you criticize the government, the chances are that you're not going to, do well. You spend the rest of your life in jail, or they have you killed, get somebody to kill you. So I never saw the possibility of Ignacio. Well, I did what happened in real life. He had to die in the end of the book. Because that's what happened in real life. And both of them died. I mean, I don't show it, but the implications of it, they're both going to kill themselves. And because, as Lucas said, I couldn't live without you. That's it. So, yeah, I don't see how he could have survived then.
I think personally, I like to entertain the thought that had Hilo survived, that maybe Ignacio and Lucas could have maybe had a family or something with the child.
Maybe now, maybe in a better world, but back then when they were having the relationship, which was about, I guess 20, 25 years, 30 years ago, I think that was totally impossible. I think nowadays, yeah, maybe there is and the church has changed a lot. It's more open so I think the new Pope said, I read something, I think last week he said that he finally said that homosexuality is not a sin. And, but that's the first time that the church had expressed a view like that. But I hope it will happen, and it probably will, maybe, like as generations come, the younger people especially have a lot to say about that, because you have a chance to change the world, to make things better. So I maybe it won't happen in my lifetime, but eventually, it could be like that. It could be like that,
Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
We have our last questions.
Okay. Hi, my name is Amy. To kind of wrap this up, I was wondering where the title of the book came from, if it was inspired by a certain moment between Lucas and Ignacio or something else.
No, it comes from it's a moment that when Lucas is thinking about Ignacio dying, and then he realizes that that Lucas meant everything to him, and that like they would talk on the phone every day. They would see each other very often, and he thought that usually they talked in the afternoon at 3 o'clock or something like that. And back then, when people didn't text everything, they actually talked on the phone. He thought, well, what will be the rest of the afternoons of my life be like if he's not there? And that's when he decides he wants to die too, because the idea is unbearable to him that he could live without having Ignacio, there to talk to him, and so it's like the idea of like this afternoon forever. It's like what would be forever would be the sadness that he feels. I would feel this sad all the afternoons of my life because Ignacio left and I'm still here. So.
Thank you. I thought the story was really moving and beautiful. So thank you for talking to us today.
Oh, thank you so much, all of you. very, very touched. I mean, you know, I see that you've read the book closely, and so Richard is I know he's a great teacher. So you're lucky to have such a great teacher, and you saw many things in the book that maybe a few years ago people, when I talk to people, they didn't see. So now maybe the world is more open to that possibilities that the book begins to open up or to end up. You know, so it was a delight. It was a delight speaking to you, and I hope I wish you well. I wish you all the best in the world. So and do some good. Try to help you other human beings. You know, and there's if you can. Okay.
Thank
So
you, Jaime.
Richard,
I appreciate your time.
okay, so